The WNBA had prepared for what was supposed to be her shining weekend, a celebration of the league's brightest new star. Instead, everything unraveled in shocking fashion. A hard collision, no whistle, tears streaming in front of a packed arena and millions glued to their screens. A superstar pushed beyond her limits, not because of competition, but because of a system that failed to safeguard her. This is more than a single moment on the court. It exposes a league facing serious challenges, an officiating system losing credibility, and the fragile future of a sport trying desperately to grow while its big.
Well, a young fan of Caitlin Clark just received what she's calling the...
Tonight, we take a closer look at what truly unfolded and why this incident may shape the future of women's basketball for years to come. Caitlin Clark under fire. A young fan recently said she received what she described as the shock of her life. What happened matters. Every detail matters. And when you slow the footage down and really examine it, you begin to see a story the league likely wishes people would ignore. The matchup was Indiana Fever against the Connecticut Sun. Anyone who has followed the season knows that games between these two teams are always intense and physical. The Sun are known for their rough, aggressive approach. They challenge every possession and force opponents to fight through heavy contact on nearly every play. That style of basketball isn't automatically wrong. Tough basketball has always been part of the game. But there is a clear line between tough competition and reckless play, and what took place crossed far beyond that boundary. With about 2.5 minutes left on the clock, Caitlin Clark was guarding near the basket as Dejounte Carrington drove toward the rim. Carrington, who had recently been traded from Dallas to Minnesota, made her move. As both players met, Carrington's knee struck Clark directly in the groin area. Fans and analysts can debate whether it was intentional or accidental. It wasn't an obvious attack or violent swing. But when you carefully review the replay, the movement of Carrington's leg, the angle, and the impact raise serious questions. The biggest question of all: how did the referees standing just feet away decide to call nothing? That is where the anger truly begins. Even if someone argues there was no intent to injure, the contact itself clearly qualified as a foul. Extending a leg and hitting another player in that manner would draw a whistle in any professional league. Yet play continued as if nothing had happened. To many, it made no sense, unless you've been watching how Clark has been treated by officials all season. Then it feels disturbingly familiar. What made matters worse was how Clark reacted. She tried to push through it. She stayed in the game because that is who she is. Just minutes later, she knocked down a crucial three-pointer, showing once again her incredible toughness. To casual viewers, she appeared fine. The commentators moved on and the game carried forward. But the real impact surfaced later. In the final minute, after passing the ball to Kelsey Mitchell, Clark suddenly stopped running. She bent over, grabbing her right groin, her expression revealing intense pain. Observers were confused because her earlier injury this season had been on the left side. Now it appeared something new was wrong. Whether this was a fresh injury, a result of overcompensating, or a worsening of existing damage, the conclusion remained the same. Her body was failing, and those responsible for protecting her had done nothing. What happened next became the defining image of the entire ordeal. Clark slowly walked up the court, hand pressed against her side, pain written across her face. She leaned against the padded stanchion under the basket and broke down in tears. Let that image sink in. This is Caitlin Clark, one of the toughest competitors the game has ever seen. A player who has handled relentless pressure, hostile crowds, and enormous expectations without ever cracking. For her to reach that emotional breaking point in the middle of a game speaks volumes. The tears were not only about physical pain. They represented frustration, exhaustion, and the cumulative toll of an entire season spent getting knocked around with little to no protection from officials. A 23-year-old athlete finally hitting her limit. And the league's reaction? Silence. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert recently claimed that WNBA officiating was in a good place. After witnessing this, that statement now feels completely detached from reality. Even Clark's own brother publicly called out the referees on social media, placing blame squarely on their shoulders. This wasn't just angry fans complaining online. This was family, people who have watched her journey from the beginning, saying enough is enough. When relatives of players feel forced to criticize a professional league, something is deeply wrong. And this incident did not occur in isolation. It is part of a troubling pattern. Clark has dealt with multiple injuries this season. First a quad issue, then a groin problem that already forced her to miss games, and now this latest setback. In college, she was incredibly durable, carrying heavy minutes without major health concerns. Since entering the WNBA, the physical punishment has piled up rapidly. Soft tissue injuries are difficult to manage and often lead to further complications if not properly addressed. The bigger question is whether she is being overworked and inadequately protected. Caitlin Clark is not just another rookie. She is a massive financial force for the league. Ticket sales, TV ratings, merchandise, everything rises when she is on the floor. That makes her arguably the most valuable asset the WNBA has. Yet the way she has been treated on the court suggests the league has failed to recognize that responsibility. Reports even suggest she may have entered the game already dealing with lingering pain, which raises serious concerns about how her health is being managed. Why was she playing if she wasn't fully healthy? Who made that decision? And did that vulnerability make the hit even more dangerous? The officiating problem in the WNBA has officially reached crisis level. What occurred was not a simple missed call. It was the latest example in a season-long pattern of Clark being hit, grabbed, and knocked down with little consequence.
Caitlin Clark is expected to be the #1 pick. Here to comment is Caitlin Clark.
And drive, she absorbs contact that would send any other player to the free throw line. Yet the whistles remain silent. Fans notice it. Analysts notice it. But the league continues to insist everything is fine. That denial only encourages more physical targeting, sending a dangerous message that roughing up certain players comes with no penalty. And that mentality leads directly to moments like this: injuries, frustration, and potentially long-term damage to a once-in-a-generation talent. The consequences of this failure extend far beyond one player. If stars are not protected, the entire league suffers. Careers are put at risk. The product on the court declines. And the message becomes clear: the system is broken. Caitlin Clark deserves better. The game of basketball deserves better. And unless real changes are made, this moment may be remembered as the point when the league's brightest future was placed.
It was also a big moment for one Boone County family who had courtside seats to all the action.
When silence begins to feel unacceptable, it means something essential has collapsed in the bond between the league and the people who support it most. Beyond emotion, there is a serious business reality that the league appears stubbornly unwilling to recognize. Fans did not suddenly start watching WNBA games in historic numbers because they became fascinated by tactical schemes or defensive strategies. They tuned in because of Caitlin Clark. They filled arenas to see her compete. They purchased merchandise carrying her name. The financial boom the league is enjoying this season can be traced clearly and directly to her arrival and her impact. When officials allow her to be physically targeted without punishment, when they permit rough play that goes far beyond acceptable limits, they are not only failing one athlete. They are endangering the very economic future the league now relies on to grow and survive. The situation surrounding the All-Star Weekend could not have unfolded at a worse moment. The WNBA All-Star Game was set to take place in Indianapolis, the home city of the Indiana Fever, the franchise that welcomed Caitlin Clark from the day she entered the league. This weekend was meant to be a celebration. It was supposed to highlight an incredible rookie season and give the league a perfect opportunity to showcase its brightest new star. It was designed to be her moment in front of the fans who have supported her through every challenge and success. Instead, it has turned into a disaster. Reports from those close to the situation suggest there is almost no possibility of Caitlin Clark playing in Wednesday's game. The highly anticipated three-point contest, an event perfectly suited to display her remarkable shooting ability, is almost certainly off the table. Even optimistic estimates give her only a small chance of appearing in the main All-Star game. Considering the pain and emotion she showed while sitting injured on the sideline, even those slim hopes seem unrealistic. Think about the impact of that reality. The most recognizable face in the league, the top vote-getter, the player who transformed this ordinary mid-season event into a national attraction, may not step on the court at all. The entire reason Indianapolis was expected to feel more exciting and meaningful than any previous All-Star location could end up watching from the bench in street clothes. Her absence would be felt in every way. Television ratings would suffer. The atmosphere would lose its energy. Casual viewers who began following the league solely because of her would receive a clear message that the WNBA was unable to protect its biggest star. That message would remain long after the weekend ended. What was supposed to be a triumphant showcase has instead become a symbol of the problems that have defined this season. A star worn down, a major event overshadowed by injury, and a league forced to face the results of its own negligence. All of this leads to a difficult but necessary question. Who is truly looking out for Caitlin Clark? Does she have the proper support system around her? Is the current structure strong enough to protect a player of her importance and handle injuries of this magnitude? The Indiana Fever medical staff is responsible for her recovery, and they are professionals doing what they believe is best. Yet the outcomes raise concerns. Multiple injuries in a single season, possible rushed returns, and now a situation that threatens to derail everything she has achieved. At some stage, priorities must shift. Caitlin Clark is not just another athlete on a roster. She is a once-in-a-generation talent whose value extends far beyond the basketball court. Her future earnings, endorsements, and career legacy all depend on her long-term health. Protecting that investment should be treated as the highest priority. Great athletes in the past understood this. Kobe Bryant, for example, sought out world-class specialists whenever his body required more than team resources could provide. He invested heavily in personal treatment and built a dedicated support team focused entirely on keeping him healthy. That commitment allowed him to perform at an elite level for 2 decades. Caitlin Clark deserves that same level of care. If the Fever's medical resources are not enough, she should seek additional help on her own. If league procedures are inadequate, she should not hesitate to look beyond them, because the pattern of injuries developing now could affect not only this season but the rest of her career. The tears Caitlin Clark shed were more than just an emotional reaction. They represented a league standing at a critical turning point. The WNBA placed its hopes for growth and national relevance on her shoulders, yet failed to provide the protection she needed. Every ignored foul, every reckless play, and every poor decision has consequences far greater than a single game. Fans see it. Sponsors see it. The entire sports world is paying attention. The only question that remains is whether anyone in charge will act before permanent damage is done. Will the WNBA make the necessary changes to protect its most valuable player and preserve the momentum she created? Or will this moment mark the beginning of a long decline that reshapes women's basketball for years ahead? The story is not finished, and what happens next will determine whether both Caitlin Clark and the league that depends on her can endure